Hello, friends. The 736th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Russian telegram channels said yesterday that their troops had entered Krasnohorivka, west of Donetsk. They showed a video from the outskirts of the village. Let me remind you that it is near Krasnohorivka that the only section of the front near Donetsk is located that has not moved since February 24, 2022. Ukrainian telegram channels confirmed the advance of the Russians south of the city. Later it became known that soldiers of the 3rd Assault Brigade knocked out the enemy from the southeastern part of the village. Our brigade knocked out the enemy, cleared Krasnohorivka, and did not allow further advance in this settlement. At the moment, the enemy has no strength or desire to advance here, wrote Deputy Brigade Commander Zorin. He also writes that there is a big difference between the battles that took place in the city of Avdiivka itself and in the surrounding area now. The Russians have a little less opportunity to use aviation. But at the same time, artillery and FPV drones are in huge quantities. Underneath all of this, an insane amount of infantry flies in. Sometimes we see groups of 40 people simply running across a field on foot. Sometimes they also use armored vehicles. Sometimes the Russians try to transport troops from above in tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, buggies. That is, sometimes they use the equipment as reinforcement and sometimes purely as a taxi. They drive up, throw people out and run away so that we don't have time to shoot down. The enemy really is constantly adapts and looks for different ways. We try to hit all the equipment. I'm not talking about personnel at all. It's extremely difficult to count how many Russian soldiers are destroyed in this direction every day, wrote the deputy commander of the 3rd Assault Brigade. The defense of the Ukrainian Armed Forces in the current positions of the Avdiivka direction is facilitated by the relief, since in the area of the villages of Tonenki, Orlivka, and Brdichi there is a cascade of reservoirs, said yesterday the speaker of the Tavria group of troops Likovoy. The defense there should be facilitated by the terrain itself. There is a cascade of reservoirs, and this was the chosen priority. Thus, units of the Ukrainian army in the Avdiivka direction continued to conduct a defensive operation, Likovoy said. According to him, the Russian army is blocked in the vicinity and on the approach to the village of Orlivka. However, after updating the map of the Ukrainian military telegram channel Deep State, it is clear that Russian troops have advanced inside the village of Orlivka. At least half of the village has been captured, and its entire territory is in the gray zone, that is, there are battles going on there. The situation is similar in Tonenki, south of Orlivka. The Russians claim that both villages have already been captured, but they are still being cleaned up. Ukraine has not officially confirmed this. The General Staff reported in its morning report that attacks had been repelled in the Orlivka and Tonenki areas. Meanwhile, today Commander-in-Chief Syrsky arrived in the Avdiivka direction. He called the situation at the front difficult and accused individual commanders of miscalculations. According to him, in the Avdiivka direction, certain commanders were found to have certain miscalculations in their control of the situation and assessment of the enemy, which affected the stability of the defense in certain directions. My main task is to effectively use the combat capabilities of the weapons and military equipment of our units to inflict maximum losses on the enemy and destroy a significant part of their artillery and armored vehicles, maintain our positions, and restore the situation where we retreated, Syrsky reports. He also says that Russia is sometimes successful in certain areas. To strengthen the defense in the main directions, we need to competently distribute our reserves. When working with brigade commanders, I focus on how work is organized at control points to engage the enemy by fire, on the timeliness and adequacy of decisions made in accordance with the current situation, and on maintaining constant interaction between units and subunits, the Commander-in-Chief said. Also, according to Syrsky, units of the 3rd Assault and 25th Separate Airborne Brigades knocked out the enemy who broke through to the outskirts of Orlivka. At the same time, according to Ukrainian telegram channels, today on the Avdiivka sector of the front, Russian troops occupied a forest belt south of Brdichi, where they advanced in an area up to 2.3 kilometers wide and to a depth of 1.1 kilometers. In Orlivka, the enemy occupied the remaining part of Britiv Polkovik Street and continues assault operations along Yevhenii Street. advancement in an area up to 300 meters wide and to a depth of up to 900 meters. The area of the Svetoho Apostola Iona Bohuslava returned to the gray zone. Yesterday it was in the red. South of Tonenki, west of Yevhenii, and north of Yevhenii, the enemy advanced in an area up to 2.12 kilometers wide and to a depth of 1.7 kilometers. At the same time, Ukrainian experts and military personnel continue to discuss problems with equipping fortified positions on new lines of defense. There is more and more evidence that the situation with them is bad for the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Junior Sergeant of the Battalion of Unmanned Aerial Systems of the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade Nikitin said that they have field fortifications, but they do not help against guided bombs, which Russia is now actively using on the positions of Ukrainian soldiers. Other military officials also say that these fortifications are insufficient for long-term defense. An Army engineer with the call sign Corsair writes that the brigade engineering authorities do not know how to plan ahead and submit requests at the wrong time. When I arrive at a place, I have neither a map nor a proper justification. As a rule, they say, we need to dig from that stump to planting. But it doesn't work like that. Defense must be continuous, writes Corsair. According to him, there is no wood and concrete because the brigades do not have the willpower to insist on this, and the operational tactical group does not have the money. For construction equipment, it is necessary to conclude contracts with businesses, but no one is doing this. The Telegram channel of the 46th Brigade discusses how far the enemy will advance in the Avdiivka direction. Combat operations are not conducted according to the principle of go there, I don't know where. Each unit of the 1st and 2nd echelon is assigned the immediate task, the further task, and the direction of further actions. We observe serious losses in equipment from the enemy at the initial stage. Then serious losses in personal composition and equipment at the stage of the assault on the city. That they completed the immediate task. Now the enemy is implementing his plans with troops of the 2nd echelon, replacing the battered 1st echelon. Moreover, the 2nd echelon is also no longer part of the 1st freshness, but tasks nonetheless they carry out their tasks. At the same time, the enemy keeps 1 to 2 brigades in reserve in this direction. Now their main advantage is our lack of adequate engineering and fortification structures on pre-prepared lines, where our brigades do not have the physical ability to cling to the ground. The enemy has already on his shoulders, he entered Lastochkini, Stepovy, and Yevhenii and continues. The enemy has already occupied as many populated areas as we occupied during the entire counteroffensive. Due to the lack of preparedness of adequate engineering and fortification structures in the 2nd line of defense of Avdiivka, as well as the presence of reserves that have not been brought into battle, according to a pessimistic assessment, the most likely line of defense of the Ukrainian Armed Forces will be the line of a natural water barrier along the Novobakhmedivka, Novoselivka-Persha, Karlivka line. In addition, for the enemy, advancing beyond this line will significantly increase the threat to his flanks. Understanding this will prevent the collapse of the front and further advance of the enemy, writes the Telegram channel of the 46th Brigade. Meanwhile, the 110th Separate Mechanized Brigade defending Avdiivka, after retreating from the city, went on rotation. We are going out to rest. We are going out with our heads held high. After 2 years of confrontation, there is finally a rotation, the brigade said in a statement. It is known that in the brigade there were captured and killed, but the exact number of these losses is not indicated. Friends, preparing these daily reports has become my full-time job, and I have no other job for obvious reasons. There have been few views on the channel lately, which is why I ask for your help. If you have the opportunity to support me financially, I would be very grateful. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.